guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, the Bright Side Girl, and today we're going to be doing my Mermaid Marathon reading wrap-up. So this is going to be everything that I read for Mermaid Marathon, my Mermaid Ocean Pirate Island themed readathon running July 1st through July 14th, so full 2 weeks. I read just a tiny bit less than normal, but overall we still did pretty good. I will link both of the reading vlogs up in the cards as well as down below in the description where you can kind of follow along as I'm reading these books throughout the week. I did a lot of mermaid themed activities and pirate activities. We had such a great time. I did some book hunting and like a bunch of different things, so be sure and check those out. I will link all the other mermaid related videos down below as well. For now, we're going to dive into all the books I read. So I read 11 books in total. Normally I go in order from least favorite to favorite. I'm still going to do that, but I'm also going to do it in sections because we did mermaids versus pirates this year. So we're going to talk about the piratey category first and then the mermaid category. So we're going to go in order from least favorite to favorite with the pirate books. Almost all of these were audio. I'll list the narrator down below because the narrator makes a huge difference. I liked almost everything I read, so let's get started. First, we're going to talk about the graphic novels just because I like to put them at the beginning. So technically this is a manga, but I read the first volume of One Piece. I'm not sure how many are in this giant series, and this is just a cute little manga that follows this like crazy crew of kids wanting to be pirates, and they all have different personalities and skills, and we're following Monkey D. Luffy, and since a little kid he has always wanted to be the king of the pirates, and he wears this cute straw hat and he's kind of scrawny and lengthy and you just would never picture him as a pirate, but he goes around and tries to gather a crew and get a ship and become a king of the pirates and find the One Piece, which is a missing treasure that a pirate that was captured and killed said that is still out there in the high seas. So I read this first volume so that we could watch the show. We're almost done with the show. It's adorable. I'm not sure if I will continue on like right away with the manga because I think it's absolutely huge. I know the anime is the longest running anime show, which is kind of crazy. I think it's got like 25 seasons. And then they just started the Netflix live adaptation, and I felt like they did such a good job with the adaptation. It really captures the like manga-ness of it and the like quirky silliness of it. There's some weird magic in here. There's like snail telephones and just a bunch of quirky things, and the show really captures it well without making it like too cheesy. So I'm really loving it. So I gave this one 5 stars. Okay, so now I read Pirates by Celia Ray. I did this one on audio. The narrator was great. This one is a little bit more of a historical fiction. So we're following 2 characters in here. We're in the 18th century and we're following Nancy, who is trying to escape an arranged marriage, and Minerva, who is a plantation slave. They wind up meeting up and setting sail together on a pirate ship. That's kind of the overall synopsis. The piratey stuff doesn't start until over halfway into the book because you're learning about the background of the girls and their individual lives before they meet up. This one was a tiny bit harder to get through. It was written so well, but it had those harder hitting topics about women's rights and slavery and just the product of the time period. I don't always mind reading that kind of stuff. I just was really wanting more of like a true adventurous book, and it does have a little bit of that as well, but it's really more about friendship and overcoming things and finding yourself, getting justice, and I think a lot of people will absolutely love this one. I had a little bit of a weird luck with some of my pirate books, so it just wasn't what in particular was wanting at the time. I gave it a 3.5, but I feel like a lot of people are going to give it like 4 and 5 stars, so I still recommend it. Just know going in that it's more of a historical fiction background on these 2 girls than it is like a piratey adventure. So the narrator was good though, and it's a quick one. Okay, next we have The Last True Poets of the Sea. I put this in the pirate category, but there are no pirates in here. In this one we're following the Larkin family, and they are kind of famous because their great-great-great-grandmother Fidelia was in this massive shipwreck, and she is the only one that survived. She swam to shore near Maine and then founded the town of Lyric in Maine, and so everything is kind of themed around that. Said that the ship of Lyric is somewhere off the coast of Maine, and her great-great-great-grandchildren Sam and Violet grew up hearing stories about this and always wanted to find it. They now live in New York, and Sam recently tried to kill himself, and so he goes to a facility, and Violet is also kind of troubled as well. She is seeking out comfort all of the wrong avenues and kind of having like a wild streak. So her family sends her to live with her uncle in Lyric, Maine, and to work at an aquarium for the summer to hopefully kind of give her some direction. Meanwhile, Sam is still in this facility. She winds up making a bunch of new friends, and they have this idea that they want to try and find find the ship themselves, and they think they can do it because she has some of her great-great-grandmother's journals and all that stuff. So I picked this one up because it has those kind of treasure hunting vibes. Again, that's not the main focus of the story. This is a YA read. The narrator, Tavia Gilbert, is amazing, but you're really following the story of Violet and her family and her relationship with her brother and their hardships. Violet is experiencing major anxiety and panic attacks, and they are delved into in the book, and Tavia Gilbert does such a good job. She has a panic attack in the book, and Tavia Gilbert really captures what that feels like along with the writing style. There's also a cute little female-female romance in here. Overall, this is more of a summer contemporary, and it's definitely more on the teenage angsty side, which is normally not my thing. We don't get into the true like finding the treasure part of the book until closer to the end. It does have really great summer vibes though, because she's working at an aquarium. They're doing things on the beach and going to bonfires and things like that. But we're also talking a lot about her and her family's past and kind of what's going on with her brother and her and what they're going through. So we definitely have some of those harder hitting topics. However, I did not fully mind it in this one. She did a really good job making you feel attached to the characters and not making it like too heavy, even though the topics were fairly heavy. And I really liked the cute little romance in here, and I liked the friendship, and I really liked the ending overall. Hopefully that helps you decide whether or not you want to read this one. Definitely has the summer vibes, but is not necessarily a light read, but it is a hopeful read. So I really like this one, and I gave it 4 stars. All right, I have not finished this one yet, but we're going to talk about it here. If I have any final changing thoughts, I will let you know in my next reading wrap up, because I only have 20 pages left, and I should have just read it this morning, but I didn't finish it in time. So we have Black Hearts by Nicole Casterman. Again, I had kind of an issue with this one because this is supposed to be a backstory on Blackbeard the pirate and how he came to be. It is. However, I am at the 300 page mark. The only thing piratey happening in here is that somebody is accused of piracy. So far, everything has taken place on land. We kind of talk about setting sail and wanting to go on ships. We're following Edward Teach Drummond, and he is from like this wealthy to-do family. He has spent a year sailing out on the seas, and his father kind of let him do this to get it out of his system. But now that he's back, he is expected to take a wife and go through an arranged marriage and settle down and run his father's estate. He does not want to do this. He wants to go back out on the seas. And then we're following Anne, who has come to work for his family. She's always dreamed of sailing to Curacao to learn more about her background and her mother's identity, because she is of mixed race, which is kind of looked down upon, and she wants to learn more about her culture and her people. And these two kind of meet up and have a little bit of an enemies to lovers situation. This story is mostly about their relationship and the characters and things like that. It is not a pirate book. At this point. There is a second one that I'm hoping will be much more piratey, and I know this is supposed to be a reason for Blackbeard becoming Blackbeard, but I was really hoping for like a grand high seas adventure. That being said, I do like the story for what it is. I like the little romance, very cute and angsty. I like the time period. I like learning about Anne, and there's like mysteries to uncover. So as a regular book, it's a 4-star, but again, if you're in a super piratey mood, this is not going to give you those like setting sails on the seas and fighting things and finding treasure kind of vibes. So I'll let you know when I eventually find one of those. Well, I have one here to share with you next. Overall, still liked it, 4 stars. Okay, so then my favorite of the pirate reads was Compass and Blade by Rachel Greenlaw. You guys, the 2024 releases have been absolutely crushing it this year, especially the like nautical ocean themed ones. I have loved almost all of them. I personally only read about 12 to 20 new releases a year, which I know sounds like a lot, but I read close to 200 books. A lot of them are short, a lot of them are graphic novels. I do almost all of them on audio, so that's how I'm able to get through so many. And I'm physically reading this one as well because there is not an audio. So only reading like 10 to 20 books a year is less than 10% of my reads are new releases. I like to read enough that I can kind of recommend things to you guys, but I don't like to exclusively read new releases. And for a couple of years there, the new releases were not very good. There was like a year, like maybe 2021, where I was not liking any of them, especially the debut ones. But 2024 is a great year for new releases, at least the ones that I'm picking. So this is Compass and Blade. I picked this one because I knew it had treasure hunting elements, and I was hoping we had some kind of mermaidy siren elements. There is a little bit of that in here as well. So we're on the remote island of Rosavir, and Mira, like her mother before her, is a wrecker. Her job is to sail out to shipwrecks and save any survivors. The people of Rosavir never admit that they set the beacons themselves to lure ships to the rocks so that they can plunder them. Then the council finds out and they set up a trap and they arrest Mira's father for this very act. And Mira strikes a deal with an enigmatic wreck survivor to try and help him. She has 9 days to complete this task. This was so good. Now this is the ocean island piratey treasure hunting adventure you want. It was so good. It reminded me very much of Daughter of the Pirate King mixed with Fable, but definitely its own book. It didn't feel like a copycat in any way. It had epic like ship, ocean, island vibes. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It does have some romance in here as well that was very good and very surprising. The ending was not what I expected. The book itself pulls at your heartstrings a little bit. It had some depth to it. The writing was really good. Our narrator for this audio was incredible. She was so good. I really enjoyed it. So this is probably like a 4.5 for me and is one that I see myself recommending and reading a lot more in the future. And I'm definitely going to check out more from Rachel Greenlaw. I'm not sure if this is her debut or not, but it was fabulous. Okay, now for the mermaid section. So first up, I read one graphic novel that was Thirsty Mermaids. I've been meaning to read this for like 3 years and I kind of put it off because I read the first couple pages a couple years ago. I feel like something I wouldn't like. I'm not sure why, but I flew through this one and I really found it enjoyable. I don't know if this is considered YA or adult, but we're following this group of like silly mermaids and they like to drink wine from sunken ships, and when they run out, they decide to go to land and find some more booze. And so one of them, which is like a sea witch, casts a spell, turns them human, and they go to land and they go to a bar to find some drinks. And then they realize that they don't know how to turn themselves back, so they are kind of stuck on land and they have to kind of learn to be human and make friends and do silly things. It's very, very silly and fun. It doesn't have a ton of mermaidiness to it because they're on land most of the time, but I really, really liked it. It was really cute, the graphics were really fun, and it was just kind of a quirky, silly read, so I gave it 4 stars. Next up is Emerge by Toby Easton. Again, I did this one on audiobook. I think this was an Audible exclusive audio, so I got it on the sale like once a year, like right before Mermaid Marathon. Audible has a sale if you're a member, and it's worth becoming an active member at least for like a month just to get the sales, especially if you have a hard time finding audiobooks. I can get so many audiobooks from my library, but there are a few that I can only get from Audible, and they'll do a sale where they're like $2 to $7. So that is really, really good because they're normally like 15 to 30 or you have to use a credit. So I think I got this one for like $2.50 and I've had it for a while. This is such a strange book. It's the first in a young adult series. At first I thought I was really gonna hate it and I was kind of worried. We're following these mermaids and they are the descendants of the Little Mermaid like years and years later, and the outcome of the events of the Little Mermaid caused a war between the humans and the mermaids, or at least the mermaids know about the war, and a great like separation and dislike. And so our main characters are descendants of the Little Mermaid, and we're kind of following this political climate. The mermaids in here can turn human, and the way that they get their legs is they kind of go into puberty, or they kind of think about like sex or attraction, and then they wind up getting their legs. And that is talked a lot about in the first like chapter or two, and it was very odd, and I was worried this was going to be like a super spicy, smutty book, which I wasn't expecting. And they just talk quite a bit about it at first, and also they talk a lot about her sister who is in a relationship, and I think her husband is human. I can't remember, but they are trying to like combine the traditions because mermaids are non-monogamous and humans are monogamous, and so they talk about that a lot. And I was just worried that the whole book was going to be spicy and smutty, but it wasn't. It actually had a plot and it veered off of that if you can get past the beginning. I had 2 friends DNF this because it was just so strange and weird, but it goes through it and it has its own plot. There's a cute little romance. It does read a little bit more like a summer contemporary because we are on land for most of it and our main character is like falling in love and there's like a mean girl situation. It was fun overall. If you really love mermaids, I would still recommend it. Definitely not like a new favorite, but it was decent. I don't think I'm going to continue on with this series unless I happen to like find the books out in the wild, because I'm trying to read mostly books that I own for mermaid stuff, but it was probably like a 3-star for me. Next, we're going to put this one here just because it's an anthology. I'm not sure where to put it. So this is Mermaids Never Drown, Tales to Die For, correlated by Zoraida Cordova and Natalie C. Parker. So this is a collection of young adult mermaid short stories. We have some really popular authors in here like Kaylin Barron, Maggie Takata Hall, Julie C. Dow, Carrie Maniscalco, and Zoraida Cordova, all of that stuff. I really liked it. Most of these are kind of centered around romance, but not all of them, and they all have different styles. Like some of them were a little bit darker, some of them were a little bit more fluffy. I really liked a lot of them, and a lot of them I need like full-length novels of because they were really good, like the premise. I was very disappointed by Carrie Maniscalco's story, which I talked about in my Mermaid Marathon reading vlog part 2, mostly because it was very spicy and smutty, and I just wasn't expecting that for the young adult anthology, and I was really excited for her story, and I just didn't love it. But overall, really good. If you love mermaids, it's such a good one to dive into, pun intended. All the narrators were different too for each story, so that was really fun, and I really liked it. So like a 3.5 probably overall. Some of them had lower ratings than others. We have Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armstrong. So I always pick 2 what I call like weird books to read during Mermaid Marathon because there are so many strange mermaid books. People use mermaids and silkies and things as metaphors for things, and sometimes they get really dark and twisted, and I really want to try as many mermaid books as possible, or ocean themed books. I always pick 2 that I feel like I might not like just to kind of get them done and see how I feel. And so Our Wives Under the Sea was the first one, and I wasn't sure if this had mermaids or not. I can confirm it does not. We're following Miri and her wife Leah. Leah is a marine biologist. She is trained for like deep diving and submarine diving, and she mostly works for the military. However, she gets sent off on this mysterious deep sea challenge, and she can't really say much to Leah. So we're bouncing back and forth between the timeline of Leah being gone and her thoughts about what's happening in the mission while they're in the submarine, while they're under the sea, and Miri while she is at home worried, not knowing what's happening because they're gone for longer than they say, and she's like talking to people about it. And then also jumping to the future tense where Leah is home, but she is acting very strange and she won't really talk about what happened on the mission, and Miri is very worried about her. I actually really enjoyed this one. It's a short read. It is an adult read. I do believe it's considered a horror. I didn't find it scary, however, it does have some slight horror elements. There is some like creepy things that happen with Leah and her body. Definitely some darker things. It didn't personally bother me, but I do like to let people know going in because a lot of the stuff I read is much lighter. This is definitely a dark one, slightly on the spooky side. It gave me very small reminiscent vibes of Into the Drowning Deep because we're with Leah for a portion of the book while she's in the submarine and weird things are happening and they don't know why they're on this mission. I need more submarine books too because I kind of like, I'm like a weirdo. I'm kind of liking that like claustrophobic, strange feeling, and both this book and Into the Drowning Deep gave me those feelings very well. Like I was in the submarine with them, seeing what happened and like waiting for things to occur. Kind of reminiscent of some of our space books as well. So the atmosphere of this was really, really good for that part. We also talk a ton about the ocean. Leah is giving facts about the ocean because she's always been obsessed with the ocean and she loves it, and you're learning different things. So that part was really cool. I do think Miri is a little bit on the unlikable side. However, it didn't personally bother me. I still kind of liked her even though she had a little bit of an unlikable personality. Definitely not like a warm fuzzy read, but they do talk about their romance and how they met and kind of got together. And the ending was super weird, but overall I liked it. So if you like super weird books, you don't mind something a little bit spooky, a little bit creepier, strange, I would still recommend it, and I wound up giving it a 4-star. Oh, and the narrator for Our Wives Under the Sea, fabulous. All right, so weird book number 2. I had such good luck this year because usually I have at least one mermaid book that I read during the readathon that I hate because I try these like weirder, stranger books, and this year I didn't have one. So we did The Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro and Danielle Krauss. I didn't know much about this one going in. I knew that it had a movie. I knew that this was like about a creature and like a romance. This is an adult novel. I did do it on audio. I really love the narrator. She was fantastic. So this one is set in the 60s. We're following multiple points of view, but one of our main characters is Eliza, and she is mute and she is a janitor working at this research facility. She kind of has a humdrum, hard existence, but she has a loving coworker and a helpful neighbor that kind of help to take care of her. And they're at this ocean aerospace research center, and one night she sees something she was never meant to see. The center's most sensitive asset, an amphibious man captured from the Amazon. The creature is terrifying but magnificent and also has a language of his own. And basically they kind of slowly fall in love. That's kind of the overall plot. You're following multiple points of view in here though. You're getting her co-worker's point of view. You're getting Strickland, who is the director, I believe, of the research center, who's like a military guy. You're kind of bouncing back and forth a lot. It is very weird. Like, there are parts that are super strange. There's a lot with the political climate at the time, especially in the 60s. There's things to do with the racial injustices, women's rights, and things like that. The overall story though is about the creature, and you're kind of learning about how they found him and how he got there, and also learning more about him as things develop. I personally wish there had been a little bit more about the creature, because we go back and forth into people's past and into their thoughts and into the situation. And there is a lot to do with the creature and Eliza, but not quite as much as I would have liked. There's very weird stuff in here. There's some kind of like icky stuff, like one of the characters loses a finger and they talk about it several times, and weird things happen with the finger. And Strickland is a very mean boss. He has horrible, mean thoughts about women. He's kind of a little bit going crazy as well because of things that happen in the Amazon. So there is some harder things to read. However, Eliza and Zelda and her neighbor Giles are so incredibly lovable and fun to root for. And then our creature as well is just really cool. It gives me vibes a little bit of like Splash, but definitely in like a much darker, stranger way. The movie Splash, if you haven't watched that, it's with Tom Hanks and a mermaid, and she like gets captured and he has to save her. I really wound up liking it, especially the ending. Just now going in, it's super strange. It can be dark. It can be weird. It's not quite as much about the creature as I wanted. He's definitely not a merman, but he is like an ocean amphibious type creature, and he's technically not human, but has human-like aspects about him, basically like an alien, and I really liked it. It was really good. I'm excited to watch the movie. Something that I wouldn't think that I would normally like, but the writing was just so good, and the characters that you did root for, you really rooted for. So a 4-star for me. And then lastly, my favorite book, and the only 5-star of the readathon, was Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton. This one took me by surprise. I was not expecting to love this one as much as I did. So I read this one for the Mermaid Challenge. Like, all of these I read for the mermaid side, but technically Emerge and Thirsty Mermaids were the only ones that had actual mermaids in them. This one, however, does follow a siren, and she does have like ocean water magic. We do talk about the ocean and water in here. There is a part where they're like on a ship. So not necessarily the best one for the readathon, even though those elements are in there. This is definitely more of just like a solid fantasy, and we're in a fae world. So we're following Sorcy, and she is a siren. She has to hide these powers that she can sing a man to an early grave. She, however, is hired as like a secret assassin at night to go and sing men to their graves, and during the day she disguises herself as a fae and begins to work at the castle as a soldier, and she winds up becoming the bodyguard for the crown prince. He is kind and thoughtful and not at all what she expected, and everything seems to be going okay until he assigns her to investigate these mysterious murders that have been happening at night. So we've got a sweet, unlikely romance in here, and I really, really loved it. This was such a great fantasy read. It definitely has more to do with fae and magic, but the politics were great, the world building was great, the writing was great, the characters were lovable. I especially loved the crown prince. He was so adorable. He was such like a cinnamon roll type love interest, and I just, oh, so cute and fun. I love a good like kind of spoiled but like very kind prince. I love reading that kind of character. It just was really, really good. It had some nice twists and turns in here. I absolutely love the narrator. She did a fabulous job. Sorcy is also trying to protect her sister, who is more vulnerable than other people, and kind of keep her safe, and so that's part of the reason she takes a job in the castle. So there's a lot to do with family in here, and I wound up really loving it, and I gave it 5 stars, much to my shock. So again, not a mermaid read. There is a siren. Technically works for the readathon, but if you want something super mermaidy, this is not going to be what you're looking for. But I highly recommend it as a solid fantasy book. It is the first in a duology. I believe the second book comes out in August, so very soon, and I will be reading it. So yay. Fairy Loot is also crushing it. This is like the 6th Fairy Loot book that I have read so far from 2023. And they're just crushing it. I can't believe how much I have liked all of the books that they have picked so far. So something to keep in mind because they have all been so good, and I'm so thankful because I have this beautiful Fairy Loot edition and now I can keep it because I loved it. So fabulous. Highly recommend. Okay, and that is everything I read for Mermaid Marathon. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit me up with a ocean emoji if you made it this far. Let me know if any of these will be added to your TBR for future Mermaid Marathon or just in general. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Brightside Girl if you haven't already. Let me know if you liked doing mermaids versus pirates, if we should do that again next year, or if I should kind of mix it up and do something different. Let me know if you participated in the readathon and what your favorite book was, and I will see you guys next time on The Bright Side.